If you present, teach, or pitch for a living, you definitely already know the grueling reality of slide preparation.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. Like you agree to give a 90-minute talk and you know your subject inside and out, you have the expertise,
Yeah.
and yet somehow you are staring down the barrel of a 4-day ordeal just to get those thoughts onto a screen.
It's just wild.
It is. We are talking about 4 full days of manual labor for, 90 minutes of actual speaking. So, okay, let's unpack this because today's comprehensive analysis focuses on a radical solution to this exact problem.
And it's a very needed solution.
Definitely. This is the 20th issue of the Thinking in Public Substack newsletter created by Alperin. And our mission today is to look at a completely new workflow that takes those 4 days of exhausting manual slide preparation and compresses them into a single evening using AI coding assistance.
Yeah, it is a massive compression of time. But what is truly significant here isn't just that someone found, like, a faster piece of software.
Right. It's bigger than that.
Exactly. What we're looking at is a fundamental shift in how human beings interact with design tools. I mean, we are talking about moving away from the manual pixel-pushing exhaustion of placing boxes on a screen and stepping into the role of a creative director.
A creative director. I love that framing.
Yeah, you are no longer the builder using your hands to move digital objects. You are the executive decision maker assessing the final product.
That distinction changes everything about the workload, really. But before we look at this entirely new workflow, we really need to understand the mechanics of why the old way is so deeply broken.
Oh, completely.
Because the traditional manual process is something most professionals just, accept as the cost of doing business. The creator of this newsletter breaks down the exact time cost involved, and the math is painfully relatable.
There really is.
We are looking at 3 whole days spent in Canva just to build 30 slides. And we should clarify, this is not because the user lacks software skills.
No, not at all.
They actually like Canva as a platform. But the traditional process demands a tedious, unyielding level of precision from the human operator.
Right. The human basically becomes a machine.
Yes.
You are tasked with sizing every single title so it matches from slide to slide. You are manually selecting every specific hex code for your colors.
So tedious.
It is. You are balancing the layouts one at a time, nudging an image 2 pixels to the left, then 2 pixels to the right, just so that the visual representation on the monitor finally aligns with the concept in your head.
Right.
It is entirely manual labor masking as creative work.
And the crazy part is 3 days just handles the visual component.
So visuals, yeah.
You spend 72 hours just to make the slides look presentable.
Uh-huh.
But then comes what the author accurately identifies as the hidden 4th day.
The dreaded 4th day.
Right. Day 4 is the one nobody ever budgets for in their calendar. It's the day spent entirely on writing the actual script. Think about the physical interface of traditional presentation software for a second.
It's terrible.
Where does that script go? It gets crammed into that tiny claustrophobic little notes box at the absolute bottom of the screen underneath each of the 30 slides.
Which perfectly illustrates a massive architectural flaw in how these programs are designed, really.
How so?
Well, the tool structurally prioritizes the visual output, the slide the audience sees, but severely marginalizes the script, which is the actual engine of the presentation.
Exactly. The reality is that a series of images does not carry a 90-minute live room. The script does.
Exactly.
The specific words you say, the pacing you use, and the exact order in which you deliver those concepts are what keep an audience engaged.
Yeah.
Yet traditional tools force you to spend an entire day typing into 30 separate tiny little text boxes before a single word is ever spoken aloud on a stage. It literally treats your spoken words as an afterthought.
The cognitive dissonance there is just staggering. I mean, the software makes you spend 3 days on the background visuals and 1 day on the core message. And then it shoves that core message into an unreadable side panel.
It's backwards. Now, I can hear people pointing out the obvious alternative here. Don't we already have AI tools that build decks in 2 minutes?
Oh, sure.
Why not just use those and skip the 4-day headache entirely? Well, using standard AI presentation tools is a lot like buying a cheap one-size-fits-all suit.
That's a great way to put it.
Right. Sure, you get it instantly off the rack and the transaction is incredibly fast, but the fit is terrible.
Always.
So you take it home and you end up spending significantly more time trying to rip out the seams, take in the waste, and get it tailored than if you had just gone to a bespoke tailor and started from scratch in the first place.
That is a highly accurate way to frame the false promise of generic AI templates. What's fascinating here is the underlying mechanism of why those standard AI tools ultimately fail professional presenters.
Yeah,
It actually has nothing to do with processing speed. As the author notes, generating a deck in 2 minutes is faster than a human will ever be.
of course.
The failure point is the aesthetic output. Those generated decks scream AI generated to the audience before the presenter even opens their mouth.
The audience recognizes it instantly. It's the same predictable shapes, the exact same spacing algorithms, and those generic 3 cards lined up in a row.
Yep.
You look at it and you immediately know a machine spit it out, which unconsciously devalues the information being presented.
Right. The audience senses a lack of effort. And here's the critical flaw in the mechanism of those platforms. When you inevitably try to fix that generic cheap suit output, you become trapped.
Trapped in their system.
Exactly. You are locked inside their proprietary editor, constantly fighting against a rigid template algorithm that actively wants to force your customized content back into its predefined boxes.
Ugh, the worst.
You spend agonizing hours wrestling with a house style you never even asked for, and on top of all that frustration, the software still forces you to manually write your own script into those tiny notes boxes, one slide at a time.
So you haven't actually saved any time. You've just traded design time for, fighting with the software time.
Precisely.
This perfectly explains why the creator kept paying what we could call the 3-day Canva tax. Canva might be painfully slow, but it actually delivered the exact bespoke design the user requested without forcing a generic template on them.
Yeah, the manual tool offered control at the expense of time. The generic AI tools offered time at the expense of control.
Exactly.
The user needed a system that provided the absolute design precision of a manual tool without the soul-crushing manual labor.
And that structural problem leads us directly to this completely new workflow utilizing a tool called Claude Code. And the methodology here completely upends the normal approach to building a deck.
It really does.
The input method changes from dragging and dropping shapes on a canvas to providing conversational direction.
Right. Instead of acting as a graphic designer, you interact with the AI exactly as you would explain a project to a trusted colleague or an executive assistant.
You literally sit down and describe the session. You provide the core topic. You define exactly who is sitting in the audience, which informs the tone.
Yeah.
You state the duration of the talk.
Yeah.
You drop in your rough, completely unstructured notes. And crucially, and this is the part I find brilliant, honestly, you give the AI an explanation of how you actually talk on stage.
That specific instruction is so vital.
Isn't it?
Because, as the author points out, generating a script that reads like dry academic documentation is completely useless when you are standing in front of a live room trying to hold the attention of human beings.
Nobody wants to listen to a textbook.
Exactly. The AI needs to understand your speaking cadence, your rhetorical pauses, and your conversational style.
So you feed all of this human context into Claude Code, and the output mechanism it uses is equally fascinating because it completely bypasses the proprietary software trap.
Right.
The tool does not lock you into a walled garden on some corporate server. It generates a folder containing plain HTML files that sit directly on your local hard disk.
And we should really unpack why those plain HTML files are so revolutionary in this context.
Let's do it.
The AI utilizes an open source presentation framework called reveal.js. However, the critical technical detail here is that the AI specifically loads none of reveal.js's default themes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it strips away all the prepackaged aesthetics.
Meaning every single line of the design, the fonts, the margins, the color blocks is written fresh in code for your specific talk.
Exactly fresh.
It doesn't look like a standard reveal deck, and it doesn't look like a generic AI template. It is completely bespoke.
Furthermore, because these are local files, the independence you gain is absolute.
That's a big deal.
It is. You double-click a file, and it opens instantly in your standard web browser.
Right.
There are no corporate accounts to manage, no monthly subscriptions to maintain, and absolutely nothing to sign into when the venue's Wi-Fi inevitably goes down.
Which it always does.
Always.
That independence gives you total authority over the visual output. Like, if you instruct this system that you want exactly one photo and 4 words isolated in the bottom right corner of a slide, that is exactly what the code generates.
No arguments from the software.
Exactly. There is no template arguing with your layout choices. There are no mandatory corporate logos sitting in the corner forcing you to constantly adjust your margins.
You dictate the parameters, and the code executes the parameters perfectly.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because looking at this process, I do have to push back a little on the reality of using AI.
Sure.
Doesn't reviewing AI output just replace the exhaustion of building with the exhaustion of editing?
That's a fair question.
Right, because we all know language models hallucinate or make weird layout choices. If the AI gets the code wrong, aren't you still spending hours fixing it manually?
That is a very perceptive challenge and a vital distinction to make regarding modern workflows. The author is highly transparent about this reality.
Yeah.
The AI does not generate a flawless, presentation-ready deck on the first shot. A slide might render with too much visual density, or a specific metaphor in the script might not land with the intended impact.
So you still have to work.
The work itself does not vanish into thin air, but the nature of the human effort fundamentally changes. We transition entirely from building to judging.
Building versus judging, that is a brilliant way to conceptualize the shift in labor.
It really changes everything. When you are building, you are utilizing your physical hands and your finite hours to move boxes, resize text blocks, and constantly compare hex colors.
The pixel pushing.
Exactly. It is mechanical, repetitive labor. When you are judging, you are acting as a true director. You look at the generated output on your screen, and if a visual element is incorrect, you simply state what is wrong in one normal conversational sentence.
You just tell the AI, like, make this text larger, or this section feels too cramped, spread it out.
Precisely. The AI receives the critique, instantly writes the new code, and executes the mechanical fix. You review it again. Judging the output, acting as the director, takes a single relaxed evening. Building that exact same output manually took 3 full days of pixel pushing.
That represents a staggering return on your time investment. But getting the deck and the script generated is really only half the battle.
That's true.
The true innovation of this entire workflow emerges when you actually step onto a stage and stand up to present that material to a live room. The technology has to perform in real time.
Yes, it does.
So let's examine the physical execution of the presentation, specifically this two-screen setup.
The physical execution phase is where this system solves deep-seated ergonomic problems that most software developers just completely ignore when designing presentation tools.
The mechanics of the setup are beautifully straightforward. You have this local folder with 2 main HTML files. One file goes up on the projector or the secondary monitor for the audience to see. The other file opens on your laptop monitor. They sync instantly, running entirely locally on your machine with no internet connection required. And the view running on that laptop is what the author calls the window nobody builds for you.
Such a great phrase.
It is. It is a radically redesigned presenter view.
To appreciate the redesign, we must analyze why traditional presenter views are fundamentally flawed.
Please do.
As we discussed earlier, they shove your script into a narrow, vertical column down one side of the screen.
Right, the tiny box.
Think about the physical mechanics of using that interface while speaking. Every time you need to reference your next line, your eyes are forced to dart away from your audience, look down to the far right corner of your screen, find your place in a tiny, condensed block of text, read it, and then try to swing your head back up to reestablish eye contact with the room.
It creates a completely disjointed, disconnected performance. You look like you are constantly checking your email while talking to people.
You really do.
But this new system completely flips the geometry of the screen. The script runs straight down the dead center of the monitor, occupying the top 2/3 of your screen real estate.
Yeah.
It only displays one single paragraph at a time, and the text is sized so largely that you can comfortably read it from 3 steps back from the podium.
The ergonomic and psychological benefits of that layout are immense.
I can imagine.
Your eyes drop straight down to the center of the screen, which requires minimal head movement, and come straight back up to the audience. You never lose the connection with the room.
So what does this all mean? It's essentially turning your standard laptop into a professional broadcaster's teleprompter, seamlessly merged with your slide deck control.
And the user interface surrounding that central script is brilliantly restrained to minimize cognitive overload.
How so?
Directly underneath the large text in the script, the system displays live pictures of the slides. And these are actual visual thumbnails like fully rendered images of what is on the screen, not just text titles of the current slide and the next slide coming up.
The visual cues are engineered so smartly for the presenter's peripheral vision.
They really are.
Like, when a slide changes on the projector, its number flashes on your screen, but it specifically flashes in that slide's dominant color.
Right.
The system actually pulls the dominant color from the design and uses it as the notification. That means you can catch the transition out of the corner of your eye, confirming the slide actually advanced without ever having to turn your back on the audience to check the projector behind you.
It's so seamless.
And there is also a built-in timer sitting right there in your line of sight.
The entire interface is designed to eliminate the cognitive load of managing software while trying to speak. And that seamless experience is achieved through the one-key control system.
The simplicity is the best part. One arrow key drives the entire 90-minute presentation. Just the right arrow key.
That's it.
You press it once to move to the next beat of your script. You read the large text, you press right, and you get the next paragraph. When you reach the end of the script for that specific slide, you press the right key again, and the deck itself advances for the audience.
So easy.
The presenter completely stops thinking about managing slides. You focus entirely on delivering your words, and the deck automatically keeps up with your script.
Which brings us to a technical marvel that happens behind the scenes before you even step on the stage.
Oh, right.
This raises an important question. If you are acting as a director and having a local AI assistant build 30 slides in code in a single evening, how do you guarantee the visual quality?
Good point.
Usually, the burden of quality control falls entirely on the human. Even with incredibly fast AI generation tools, you still have to spend an hour painstakingly reviewing every single slide to make sure a line of text isn't running off the page or a white font hasn't disappeared into a white cloud in the background image.
Because an AI might understand the text that needs to go on a slide, but traditionally, it doesn't intuitively see the visual layout in the same way a human graphic designer does.
Exactly the problem.
Yeah.
But this system integrates an autonomous self-checking feature. Before the AI assistant even hands over the final folder for your review, it opens all 30 slides internally.
Wait, if I'm understanding the mechanics correctly, the coding assistant is essentially running a background browser, rendering the HTML code it just wrote, and taking a literal screenshot of every single slide.
That is exactly the mechanism.
That's incredible.
It takes a picture of its own work and then passes those images to a visual assessment model to check the layout. If the vision model detects that a heading is overlapping a photograph, or a line of text is running off the edge of the screen, or a bullet point has been pushed below the bottom margin, it recognizes the visual error.
And it writes the code to fix it autonomously.
Yeah.
Before you even double-click the file to open it, the AI has already caught the overlapping text, resized the font, and corrected the margin. It does the painstaking hour of visual quality control for you, functioning as its own QA department.
It is a remarkable application of machine vision applied to routine formatting. The machine handles the tedious visual corrections, so the human director only has to evaluate the message.
Having engineered this incredibly efficient, self-checking, teleprompter-style system for their own workflow, the creator recognized a logical friction point.
Right, the setup.
Exactly. It requires specific technical know-how to configure an AI coding assistant to handle all these local files and background browser checks. Building this setup from scratch every single time they had a new presentation to give was highly inefficient.
The workflow was powerful, but manually configuring the AI environment for every new project defeated the purpose of saving time. The logical next step was standardization, packaging the entire workflow architecture so it could be deployed instantly, even by someone who isn't a software developer.
And that leads directly to the public release of the tool. The creator cleaned up the entire system architecture, streamlined the files, and packaged it all into a single free folder called Present.
Such great resource.
And they made it available for anyone to use. You can download it right now at alperinzekigokman.com/present.
The accessibility of this package tool is a critical point to highlight. To utilize the workflow, the user does need to run an AI coding assistant on their machine.
Okay, what kind?
The author specifically mentions using Codex, Claude Code, or Antigravity to process the folder. But the setup process itself has been made remarkably frictionless for the end user.
It takes roughly 10 minutes to get everything running. You download the free folder, unzip it on your computer, open it inside your chosen AI assistant, and you just start talking to it.
That simple?
You feed it your topic, your audience details, and your stage voice. On the very first run, the assistant acts like a bespoke IT department. It automatically checks your machine's environment and installs any missing technical components you might need.
Furthermore, the inclusion of the fully functioning example deck within the initial folder is an incredibly smart onboarding choice for new users.
It bridges the learning curve instantly. You can open the two HTML files right away, press the right arrow key a few times, and immediately experience that two-screen broadcaster's teleprompter set up for yourself without having to build a single thing.
You get to feel it first.
Exactly. You physically feel how the workflow operates before you start directing the AI to build your own deck. And if a user does encounter an issue, there is an AI setup wizard integrated directly on the website to help troubleshoot the environment.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, what we are witnessing is the democratization of bespoke design for professional communicators.
I completely agree.
For decades, presenters have been forced into a binary choice. Either make massive time investments in manual tools to get the exact design they want, or accept restrictive corporate software templates that strip away their unique visual identity.
It's always been one or the other.
But this package tool, Present, gives anyone the power to maintain their unique voice, dictate their exact design preferences, and do so without paying that exhausting 3-day tax. It bypasses the corporate walled gardens entirely, returning ownership of the presentation back to the speaker.
We are talking about transforming a grueling 4-day chore into a single, relaxed evening of creative direction.
It's life-changing for presenters.
The presenter walks away with a completely custom presentation wrapped in a flawless, distraction-free teleprompter interface that actually supports their live performance instead of hindering it.
And while our analysis is focused almost entirely on how this tool saves the presenter's time, sanity, and cognitive load, I think there is a profound secondary implication here.
Oh, what's that?
Consider the ultimate impact on the audience sitting in the room. If every speaker suddenly had access to a workflow that allowed them to maintain constant, unbroken eye contact with the crowd.
Wow, yeah.
If they could speak with absolute natural rhythm because their script was highly visible and perfectly synced to their slides.
No more checking the screen behind them.
Exactly. If they never again had to turn their back to the audience to squint at a tiny side column of notes on a laptop, how much more engaging would our corporate meetings, our industry conferences, and our university classrooms become?
It would be a totally different experience.
Does eliminating the dread and technical friction of slide making actually usher in a new golden era of public speaking?
That is such a fascinating thought to leave on. When the technology finally gets out of the way, the human connection in the room can completely take center stage.
Absolutely.
If you have a massive pitch, a university lecture, or a critical board meeting coming up, you definitely owe it to yourself to check out the present tool, see what it feels like to just focus on your words again instead of fighting with text boxes. Thank you so much for joining us for this analysis. We will catch you on the next one.